Welcome to the podcast of the impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and my guest today is one of Baltimore's best sleight of hand practitioners. It's Jeff Eline. There we go. Hello.
Hello.
We're making a podcast. This is exciting. So I'm super excited to be hanging out here with you and chatting.
Very
about
cool
this.
to have me. Thank you.
Yeah, and also this is worth noting. You know, some of the guests that we're going to be doing on this podcast are coming in sort of remotely, whatever makes the most sense. But it's always fun when folks get to come hang out here with me in the parlor of the impossible.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it. I mean, come on, look around.
I guess.
Look at all this stuff. It's really cool.
People ask if it's a Zoom background, and I'm like, no. Like, I'll go grab something off the shelf there, you know. So I want to hear a little bit more. I don't know if I actually know this information about your magic origin story. Like what? Here, I'm going to kick this camera over too, just to make it.
Oh yeah, I can move too.
All right, we'll like we like each other. Yeah. So what was the? Is it the classic magic kit when you were 6?
It is the classic magic kit.
All right.
So.
Second question. No.
No, I young kid got a magic kit for Christmas, and the one thing I love about my mom is if I took an interest in anything, she did her best to find books or people or whatever to support that. So when they gave me a guitar when I was 5 years old, a toy guitar, and I wouldn't put it down. I just loved it. And she went way out of her way to find a real guitar that was good for a 5-year-old,
cool.
a scaled down version.
Sure.
And a teacher. Most teachers would not take a 5-year-old. And she finally found one. And she got me books, and she was just so supportive. And so when they gave me the magic kit, like a lot of kids get, and I still remember it was that plastic top hat.
Okay.
Do you know that one?
I've seen it before.
And it was a lot of bowl. Like you could fill the
cool.
hat with water, and there was a little hole that you could keep it.
Okay.
And the label, if you looked in, it looked like a label on the bottom of this plastic top hat. But that label you could push on the one side, and it would lever up, and you could have scarves.
Right. Okay.
I still remember it was a great magic kit. And so when I took an interest in that and, I had to show everyone, she did the same thing. And there was a YMCA near us, and they had a 4-6 week magic class, and she signed me up for it.
Okay.
And the guy did all the easy magic stuff, the nail through the quarter,
sure,
and then
the spiked coin
in the box, and hippity hop rabbits and dots impossible and stuff like that. So and then I started, I got the bug to actually perform. And so when I was 12 years old or 13 years old, I was doing kids' parties.
Okay. Yeah.
The funny thing was we knew nothing of the business.
Okay.
Zero.
All right.
Now we're talking late 70s, early 70s, early 80s.
Sure.
And, fees are obviously different from back then, to now. But my mom decided she didn't know what to charge. I didn't know what to charge. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And so she decided that I would charge my age.
Okay.
So I charged $13, and then next year I got a raise to $14.
Okay. Sure.
15, and then by the time I was 15, I realized that guitar was a little cooler than card tricks.
I don't know about that.
So I think
that's empirically proven. That's completely true.
Yeah. And so I really focused on guitar, and there were bands in school, the jazz band. I got into that, and I had bands of my own on the side, just trying to do Kiss covers, and whatever.
Sure. Okay.
But I had and so I kind of dropped magic. I didn't do magic through college.
Okay.
And when I moved back to my hometown, my wife and I, a buddy of mine who was a juggler wanted to Chuck Flahart, Chuck, wanted to add magic to his, because he was juggling and doing stilt walking, and he thought he wanted to branch out, and he knew I did magic, so he called me and he said, do you have any of your magic stuff, any old stuff or books or whatever? And I said, yeah, my mom has it. So I went over to my mom's house.
Cool.
And in the basement they had a box, and he gave it, and looking through it, it got me back in again. It like
Nice.
pulled me back in again.
That's fun.
And so I guess that was 90, 91.
And this is out of college, right?
Post college. Worked in television for a couple years, and then came back to the hometown.
Okay.
Worked for my dad, and that's where the box came from their house. And I'll never forget. It was Garcia's book, Magic Card Tricks.
Okay.
It wasn't the super valuable ones, the red and the green.
Okay.
Books. I know we're talking about stuff that some people may not understand, but there was a
need to know.
Garcia book, and it was a kind of a general. You could buy it at Barnes and Noble. It was a general, basic card, and I still had it. I went through it and just fell in love with cards all over again, and still play guitar, but I do the magic trick every now and then.
Well, so I'm curious about when you were doing those early shows. How much of that material was self-working? Like when I think of a kit, I think of things that are basically they run themselves or with very little practice.
Sure.
But then now I know that you're a lot more interested in sort of the purity of just a deck of cards and you do your thing.
Yeah.
So tell if I had watched you at 13 doing a $13 magic show, do you remember what that stuff like? Hippity Hop Rabbits?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I remember there were no card I think maybe I did an invisible deck routine, but I actually didn't like cards because my hands were small and I couldn't manipulate them and it was difficult.
Okay.
And I fell in love with cards later. Like I said, when I came back, but in those early days, it was. Milk pitcher.
Okay.
It was Hippity Hop Rabbits, chick pan, but I didn't have livestock. I used, people put chick pan is a trick where it looks like a cooking pan, and you would put things in there. You put the lid on and let it, sit for a minute. You open up and there'd be doves or something.
Right. Sure.
And so, as a kid, I didn't, there was no way we were going to have doves, in the house.
Smart,
yeah, very smart. And so the trick I did, someone taught me, and I didn't think this up, was to have the birthday person come up and put dirt and some seeds and a little water, and then you put the lid on and wait a second. When you took it off, there was all these flowers.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember there was a gag that some magician gave me. They go, tell them to stand here, but they're not tall enough, so put a piece of newspaper on the ground, and when they step on it, go, okay, that's perfect.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good gag.
And the milk pitcher had the gag where when you poured it in, you always let just a little bit go,
Yeah.
And it would come at the bottom, and you were like, oh my goodness,
Was this into a cone? Like a
newspaper cone, exactly. And you'd flick it open, and there would be no milk.
Right.
But there would be a graphic of a cat with a big smile on his face,
yes.
like he's.
I remember seeing that in I think the Hank Lee catalog. Yes.
Yeah. And Dots Impossible.
Okay, is that the one with where you've
the board and it has two dots?
So it looks like a large domino.
It
kind
does.
of.
Yeah, and you could turn it over, and there's more dots, and you turn it back over, and there's different dots, and keep doing it. A die box.
Okay.
Oh man, the die box. The die box and Hippity Hop Rabbits would just drive kids nuts.
Sure. One and both of those, for our friend listening, I would call them what magicians would call them sucker tricks. Where, especially if you're a young person watching it, you kind of get a thrill out of being led down a garden path, and you are pretty sure how this magician is doing what they're doing.
Right.
And the other thing that I found as a young performer, and I don't know if you sort of were with it enough to be thinking about this when you were 10, 11, 12, but I think grown-ups, adults sort of took pity on you because it looked like you were just really bad at this.
Yeah.
And anytime...
Yeah, it sunk the hook deeper into some...
Yep. Because grown-ups in the back of the room be like, oh, look at this poor little kid. He's doing his little thing, and it's pretty obvious what he's doing,
Yeah.
But then, when you would, there was definitely a power there that I remember experiencing as a young person that I haven't felt since.
Yes.
Because now it's like, oh, okay, well, of course he knows what he's doing, But it was something that I could sort of lean more heavily into, the whole magician in trouble or a sucker magic plot,
Yeah.
But were these coming from a magic store, or was this mail order?
Some mail order. Speaking of mail orders, and this is a thrill that kids today who are into magic do not get.
Sure.
And I got the Abbott's catalog.
Oh, yeah.
So for those who don't know, there was a company out of Michigan, and at the time they were really, really big. I'm assuming they're still around, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're around.
They're
not
as
near.
I mean, they were dominant.
Sure.
In the 70s and 80s, and they, the only way you could market your wares was to send this catalog, and it was a phone book.
Yeah,
I mean, it was as big as a phone book, and
I might have one here somewhere.
I still have the one that I only had one, but I remember being on the bus and missing my stop, school bus, because I was so entrenched and enchanted with this, because they would have all these great graphics. There would be this, a devil that was, and you had to imagine what the trick was. They would explain it, but you still had to use your imagination of like, oh, if I bought this.
Yeah,
I would be Superman.
Yeah.
And it was just I can still feel the thrill of going through that book, looking at those pictures, reading the descriptions, imagining what it is if I bought it. That I would get. So I did buy some stuff. A lot of the stuff I did was from that YMCA class. The rope trick, which is you probably know the name of this. I don't know what the name is. The red, blue, and white ropes.
I think it's called the rainbow ropes, even though or I've also seen it called the patriotic ropes.
I think the patriotic ropes are what I remembered as.
Yeah.
So that was from there. The penetration frame, where you had a frame, you put 2 playing cards and it was a glass frame. The one I had was plastic.
Sure.
But the pencil would go through the solid plastic, and you could inspect the frame and see that the pencil, whatever, had gone through. It pierced the cards, but it actually went through the plastic or glass. And I never forget my finale, because I didn't understand anything about routining or structuring or building or whatever. So I just strung a whole bunch of tricks together.
Okay.
And so my closing effect, I'll never forget, was I brought out a paper bag, and I reached in, I brought out a lollipop, and it was the cherry lollipopper.
Okay.
And then I put it back in, and I pull out another one. It was a lime.
Okay.
Put it back in, pull out another. It was lemon.
Okay.
And then the last one, I go, I got one more, and it's grape, and that's mine. That's my favorite. So I'm going to keep that one.
Okay.
And I would then hand the bag to the birthday person, and all of the lollipops are gone.
Right.
Which is a really great thing to do to the birthday person.
And then you show tears instead of standing ovation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And but what I devised, or someone devised, was I was going, that's okay. I got a bag here with a bunch of them, and I open a bag, and it would be, a regular bag of lollipops.
Yeah.
And everyone, all the kids would just race up and grab, and the show's over.
Yeah.
So that's the way I ended my show was,
candy.
I tricked the birthday boy.
Right.
And then gave everyone else candy. And so
that seems reasonable. Well, and at least it was funny. You're talking about your chick pan routine. I remember an early purchase. Actually, I mean the Barry's, a visit to Barry's Magic Shop with birthday money. So this would have been early August, 1994, and one of the things that I purchased was a Dove pan, and it was, I think, like $40 or $50. Right. Like it was definitely a big chunk of the birthday cash. And what I usually did with it, honestly, was fill it with little bite-sized Snickers, and then put that hide that in there so that you're showing the empty pan, and then I put a piece of flash paper in there and catch it on fire and slam it down. And then there's candy, and then that's the end of the show.
Right.
But I think back, first of all, like, I don't think any kids died from peanut allergies. That was
didn't seem to be a thing back then.
No, I never even talked to any parent, not even the host parent, but certainly not every little, it's funny how thinking back to that. But then also your thing with dirt makes a lot more sense than all I'm doing. It was literally like, what can I do to catch something on fire?
Yeah. My mom wouldn't let me do fire.
Yeah, it was. I had an unfortunate conversation I wanted to buy a flash pot, which is for our friend listening, a device that basically,
I love the fact that you just say friend, like singular.
Yeah, there's just one, right? We don't have there's not millions of people.
This is not the Pendulette podcast.
We got one
Damn
guy.
it.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't. If you have something to promote, you're on the wrong. It's not what we're doing here. So I wanted this flash pot that I you could put pyrotechnic stuff inside, and it would either make fire or sparks or smoke or all the combination of them. And I had the money, and I'm on the phone, and I'm trying to order it, which obviously pre-internet from a catalog. And the guy asks to speak to a grown-up. And I knew I was done. And so I hand the phone to, I think it was mom. And he basically says that what your son is trying to buy is akin to gunpowder.
A bomb, right?
And I still have issue with that because it's not gunpowder. I mean, there is a level of theatrical grade pyrotechnics that literally, if you put a piece of flash paper in your hand and catch it on fire, it will burn up faster than you can get third-degree burns.
Right.
Like it is a very, very safe thing.
Right. And flash paper, for those who don't know, is just this piece of paper that's been treated, and you can light it on fire and it will disappear in a flash.
Yeah, it's like tissue paper, but then
tissue
it's gone,
paper, and then it's gone, and it's beautiful. It's really a great thing.
Yep. And they make other variations. There's cotton and there's anyway, so you can put this stuff in here. But I was so upset that this guy talked to and especially akin to gunpowder. Right. Like he didn't even say make sure your son's careful with this, because then my mom would have done it under supervision or whatever. It was just like, I don't want to,
to his credit, I don't know who it was you were speaking with, but
probably Max Maven. Phil Goldstein was on the other end of the phone.
But he, whoever that person was. I mean, they could have just taken the sale. Who cares? You're just some kid out. Who cares if you burn your house down? The fact that he went that extra mile is actually kind of impressive. I mean, he lost a sale.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of it was COIA, like if they I don't know if it gets back to them if a kid burns themselves up, But anyway, fast forward about a year later, my sister bought me some flash paper because there was a magic shop in Hagerstown at the time, and that's where she was living, and it was definitely a cool, she's the older sister, so the fact that she was like, okay, well, here, I'm gonna get you this stuff, and you can use it and play with it, but only on my dime, while I'm watching you or whatever.
Funny story. Like I said, my mom wouldn't let me do fire stuff. No flash paper, no nothing. And a lot of magic revolved in that time around fire. There was a lot of fire. There was a lot of flash paper. There was a lot of juggling thing that was set on fire or something. And and then I got invited to be part of the local SAM, which for those of you out there that don't know, there are many different organizations, but there's two big ones. One's SAM, Society of American Magicians. The other's IBM, which is not the computer company, but the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And so the local SAM, I knew, I ran into someone and they said, "Oh, you should join," And even though I was younger, they made an exception, and I joined them. And as soon as I joined them, it was probably like in August, or September even maybe, they were getting ready for their big October Halloween show, which was at Westminster High School.
Okay.
And they go, "Oh, we got to find a part for Jeff." Okay, well, they had a part. It was the devil. And
typecast.
Yeah, there must have been some sort of script or something, because they said, "Oh, in the devil, they've got all these fire things. Look, there's fire cane, and there's flash paper, and there's fire this and fire that." And I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about this, because obviously my mom would. And here I am in this chubby Satan satin outfit,
Nice.
and I'm doing tricks that I don't know how to do. And I'm literally just not trying to burn myself to a crisp on this stage in front of 2,000 screaming kids. It was the most. I remember having nightmares leading up to it.
Wow.
Like I was gonna burn
Sure.
the school down. And but they let me do it. I did, I remember, and I think I hid behind. There was this cabinet that had all the props, and I was supposed to go get them and then go back to center stage, and I essentially just pulled them out and started doing them right behind the, so probably people didn't even see it, but it was awful. It was awful on many levels.
Well, and yeah, I think that was all. I mean, I was just at the the end of the era where you could do that sort of stuff on a stage at a public school,
in a hotel or a school.
Yeah. And it literally, I mean, like I remember helping out with a production. I mean, I did a lot of special effects throughout middle school and high school with the theatrical productions there, but it was definitely a big turning point for all that was the Great White Fire. Is that the right?
Oh, the band? The band up in Connecticut. Yeah.
Where they just, didn't have a
small tiny club.
Yep, it was packed, and there was there all sorts of things went wrong with it. But unfortunately, because it was so horrific and publicized, everything that was there was already separation between like fireworks and theatrical pyrotechnics. Like, okay, sure, you're not going to set off a Roman candle on stage,
right?
But if you want to use flash powder, to make a puff of smoke and a flash of light, it's okay. And unfortunately, like that sort of from my perspective of it, that incident sort of triggered this whole. I remember. Everyone's like, well, now we're not using any fire on stage for anything ever.
You cannot use flash paper at the Magic Castle.
Oh yeah,
in LA, which again, for those who don't know, is kind of the mecca of magicians, and it's a magician's club, but they have lay people come in and during the week and see shows, and you're not allowed to use fire.
Yeah, I mean, I see, especially when we talk about stories like this, and when we hear stories from colleagues, like there have definitely been. Even if it is sort of low grade, like if it doesn't get beyond a yellow flame, you can still certainly cause damage or have something go wrong.
Could.
So, and not everyone is going to have a pyrotechnician license for it.
Still a better time though when you could.
I'm not disagreeing, but I've got more to chat about, but
awesome.
We're going to have to wrap it up for this one. Do you have anything you want to pimp? I don't think. I was trying to think, like, is there a social media? Is there a website? I don't think we need to. No. Yeah, okay. I mean,
I have a Twitter account if you want to, but it's, it's actually, I'm not going to tell you now that I think about it because it's actually where I get all my politics out.
Oh, nice.
I stopped doing it on Facebook because it was just alienating too many people. And so
sure.
I'm like, I go to Twitter and just rant into the void, and that gets it out of my system.
That's what Twitter's for,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I think
other people take it much more seriously, but I
I
just use it as a sounding board just so I can get shit off my off my.
No, we're allowed to say whatever.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Yeah, you can edit that out if
I went ahead and I'm going to mark every episode as explicit. Just it's not supposed to be for young people. Again, we're hanging out backstage chatting, so I want to make sure it's as authentic as possible. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Podcast of the Impossible. For my public shows and social media and special projects, you can head on over to oftheimpossible.com. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.